Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to show you how to draft a pencil skirt, and also I'm going to show you how to fit the skirt too. Let's get into this. To start this tutorial, you're going to need a pencil, some pattern paper, a ruler, and a curved ruler. It can be clear or regular. I will be using my dress form skirt measurements. So the waist is 31 1/4, the dart placement for the front is 3 1/2, and the back is 3 1/4. Waist to hips is 7 1/2, the hips is 41 inches, and the length of the skirt is 22 inches. The first thing I'm going to do is put a straight line across the paper like this. This is going to be my waistline. Next is the waist to hips, and for me it's going to be 7 1/2. So I will put the 7 1/2 right over here. After that, it's the waist to the length of the skirt, and it's 22 inches. So I will mark it here and make a straight line. First is the waist. I will divide the waist measurement into 4, which is 31 1/4 divided by 4, and that's 8 inches. So I will put it over here. Next is the hip measurement. I'm going to divide that into 4, which is 41 divided by 4, and that's 10 1/4. So I will put the 10 1/4 over here. After that, make a straight line to the length of the skirt like this. Now here is where it gets interesting. Have you ever made a skirt and said to yourself your darts is not where you put it? I'm going to tell you why. I learned this trick years ago and I'm going to pass it on to you. Here is an example. My dart is 3 1/2 inches. So I'm going to put 3 1/2 here, and my dart intake is 1 inch. So that means it's a 1/2 inch here and a 1/2 inch on the other side. Now I'm going to close the dart, but you're going to notice when you close it, it's not 3 1/2 anymore, it's 3. That's because you actually took away a 1/2 inch when you did the dart intake. Even though both sides is a 1/2 inch, we're just going to deal with one side, which is the side that's going to close the dart. So here is how you get the right dart location. Take your bust span and add one side of the dart intake, like this. You have 3 1/2 plus a 1/2 inch. That's 4 inches. Put 4 inches on the paper, and then put a 1/2 inch on one side and a 1/2 inch on the other side. When you close it, it will be 3 1/2 inches, and that's the correct location. Now you can do this when you're drafting your patterns, or you can do it at the fitting stage, but I like to do it when I'm drafting my patterns, and if there's any changes in the fitting stage, then I can just fix it. Alright, so now that you know that, let's get back to the drafting. My dart location will be 4 inches, and a 1/2 inch on both sides. For the length of the dart, it will be 4 1/2 inches. That's standard. It should never go beyond the hip line. And also, the 4 1/2 inch line can also change in the fitting stage. After that, you're going to add the dart intake you took out here and add it back right over here. From that mark, I will go up 3/8. This is because we are not straight. Everyone has different curves around their bodies, so you can do either 1/4, 3/8, or a 1/2 inch. Next, use the curved ruler and curve from the top of the 3/8 inch to the hips. Then close the dart and curve the waist from here to here. For a pencil skirt, I'm going to go in 1 inch. If you go beyond that, you might restrict leg movement too much. That's why I will go up to 1 inch and narrow more at the fitting if necessary. From here, go down 1 inch and connect the line. After that, put your seam allowance. I put 1 inch seam allowance on the side seams for fitting and a 1/2 inch on the top. The bottom doesn't need any seam allowance when you're fitting it on someone. Alright, so we finished with the front. Now we're going to continue with the back. The first thing is to draw a straight line. That will be the waistline. From there, I will mark my waist to hips, which is 7 1/2. After that, the waist to the length of the skirt is 22 inches. First, divide your waist into 4, which for me is 8 inches. Mark it right here. Next, divide your hips into 4, and for me, it's 10 1/4. So mark it right over here. After that, make a straight line from the hips to the length of the skirt. For the back dart location, it will be 3 1/4, and the dart intake will be 1 1/4, which is 5/8 on each side. So I'm going to add 3 1/4 and 5/8. That will be 3 7/8. Then from there, I will mark 3 7/8 right here. For the length of the back dart, I will use 5 1/2 inches. My dress form is a large, but for a small person, I would use 5 inches. Next, mark the dart intake, which is 5/8 on both sides. That's standard. So since we took 1 1/4 at the waist dart, we have to add it back to the waist. So I will mark 1 1/4 right here. Next, I will put a 3/8 inch line above the waistline, like how I did the front pattern. From there, curve the waist to the hips. Then close the dart and make a curve from the 3/8 inch line to the waist. After that, go in 1 inch at the bottom, and on the top, go down 1 inch and make a straight line like this. Once you finish doing that, put your seam allowance, and the seam allowance will be 1 inch on the side seams for fitting, and on top it will be a 1/2 inch, and the bottom doesn't get anything. Alright guys, so now we're at the fitting stage. The first thing you do is to make sure the hemline is straight all the way around. It has to be parallel to the floor. Usually it's recommended to measure horizontally the widest part of your hips, but again, it's quite rare that the widest part of our bottoms goes parallel to the floor. Your stomach can protrude in different places than your butt, so you can measure like how you see it in the pictures. If your waistline is not parallel to the floor, your skirt length will be different in the front and in the back. The next thing you will notice is her waist. It's not on the black line, it's on the red line, and that's her true waistline. So I have to fix that on the paper pattern. And for the front dart, it's lined up under this line. That's exactly where I want it. Now let's get into the back, which is important. If you notice, I took in a lot of fabric on the sides. That's because her back waist is smaller in the back, and most of the time that's how it is on humans. Next is the dart. As you can see, it's in the location where it's supposed to be. So doing that trick does work on skirts. Does it work on a bodice? Well, actually no. Let me show you. So this is a torso pattern. As you can see, the dart starts at the bust point and the line goes down. In this situation, you will have to follow the bust point. So really, it only works for skirts. And if you have two separate pieces, for an example, a bodice and a skirt, I would suggest you follow the bust point line all the way down to the skirt. So when sewing it, it won't have any dart lines out of place. Now let's jump back to the skirt. So I was going to take the fabric in from the dart. That's that red line next to the dart. If I did that, I would have messed things up because I realized that the back seam was a little bit past the front side seam, and the front side seam needed a little bit more fabric. So I decided to open the side seam and take it in from there, and I left the dart alone. This is how much I had to take in. I colored it in red, and this is how the front looks. As you can see, I took out more from the back. Alright guys, I hope this video helped you out, and I have more videos coming, so keep an eye out for the next one. If you love corsets and want to learn different techniques, then click on this playlist right here, and I'll see you in the next one. Don't forget to practice, practice, practice. Bye everybody.